Have you ever felt overwhelmed? Like the weight of the world is on your shoulders and you just don't know what to do next. You feel so burnt out and exhausted. I know I have, probably more times than I'd like to admit. And I can almost bet that if you click to listen to this podcast, then you have too. I'm really excited because in today's episode, we're going to get into the exact ways that you and I can overcome feeling overwhelmed together. Hi, welcome to the Inspiring Honey Show. I'm your host, Gabrielle, and I'm so excited to be hanging out with you on today's podcast episode. First and foremost, I just want to thank you so much for being here and taking the time to have this conversation with me. It means so much to me, and I want you to know that I'm truly thankful for you. If you haven't already, I'd love if you could leave a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts and let me know what you're loving about the show. One thing I'm really excited about recently is something I'm working on called the Thrive Tribe. If you follow me on Instagram at Inspiring Honey, then you've probably heard me talk about it a tiny little bit on my story. And the Thrive Tribe is a community for moms to help moms be equipped in motherhood to truly thrive. If you want to learn more about it and you want to be one of our first founding members, make sure you click the link below to join our email list so that you can be one of the first women in there. Today, we're going to talk about the 4 ways that you can overcome feeling overwhelmed. I could not tell you how many times I felt overwhelmed last week. It was honestly one of those weeks that felt so hard. Every time I walked into the kitchen, I felt like my dishes had doubled. I felt like every time I went in there, things were just multiplying. There was always a mess I needed to clean up somewhere in the house. It felt like the laundry was overwhelming me. I had laundry baskets in my room, laundry baskets in the kids' room, laundry baskets in the bathroom that either had to be folded, washed, or put away. I had a million things that I had to do for our businesses and a bunch I had to do for my son's school, and there was just so much piling up on my plate. I felt so overwhelmed. My husband was working really long hours, and because of this, I felt the weight of solo parenting throughout the day and managing the house and doing all the tasks for the businesses and doing things for friends and doing things for church and all these different commitments that we have that I love to do, but I was just starting to feel the weight of them. And I was honestly feeling really overwhelmed because I got so burnt out. I kept trying to go and sit down on my couch and take 5 minutes to just rest, but every time I went to sit on my couch, I felt literally like there was a weight on my chest. It felt like the weight of the world was hanging over my head and I could not get out of my head about it. Every time I'd go to sit down, I'd either have to get up because one of my kids needed me, or my mind would just rapidly fire through the list of to-dos and things I had to get done, but I didn't even know where to start because I was just overwhelmed by the amount of things I had to do and had no idea how to get out of this place. Mentally, I did not feel the greatest. I was so exhausted and I just wanted to take a nap, but I couldn't even take a nap because I had way too much to do. Have you ever felt this way? So when I went to go sit down on the couch and my mind was racing through the million things I had to do, it hit me. And I had this epiphany where I started to realize something that I think you and I both know, but it can be easy to forget. I think that happens to us a lot of the times. Sometimes it can be so easy to forget things we know in the moment because we're just so overcome by our emotions that it's hard to see past the situation that we're in. But if we can just take a second and step back and just look at our situation from a zoomed out view, we are able to gain such a different perspective that helps us actually be inspired and be able to move forward in the way that we have to. There are simple little things that you can do to help yourself overcome the overwhelm and get out of that state of feeling so burdened and paralyzed by all you have to do. And I know it can be hard to see it in the moment, but when you start to realize that your identity is not tied up in the things you have to do and what you have to get done, and that you're not an overwhelmed person, you might just be feeling overwhelmed in this moment. And that's a huge thing because you're not an overwhelmed person. You're just feeling overwhelmed in this moment. And taking your identity and switching it from feeling like you're overwhelmed and anxious to realizing that's not actually who you are and what you are, it's just a feeling you have in this moment, allows it to feel more temporary because the situation will change and you will get done what you need to do. You just need to take these few small steps to overcome it. Here are the 4 things that I have done that you can do too to help overcome, overwhelm, and get into a better mental place so that you are not defined by what you have to do, but you are able to continue moving forward and be equipped. Number one, first thing you have to do to overcome feeling overwhelmed is have a simple mindset shift. And I know I talked about this a little bit with the epiphany that I had, but having a mindset shift might sound kind of hard, and you might be sitting there and thinking, how the heck am I supposed to have a mindset shift, Gabby? What does that even mean? And to have a mindset shift, I'm going to tell you something to do super simple that's going to get you out of focusing on glass half empty and feeling overwhelmed and feeling anxious and looking at things from kind of a negative perspective, and switch your mindset into a place of positivity and gratitude and thankfulness. This is something I've talked about in past episodes, and I swear by. I do this every single day with my kids 3 times a day. We do it at breakfast, we do it at lunch, and we do it at dinner. And it's listing 3 things that we are thankful for and saying them out loud. And I want to challenge you to change your mindset by doing this simple task. Every morning when you wake up, maybe you can ask your kids or your husband or a friend, or maybe you can just ask yourself by journaling, what are 3 things you're thankful for? I know it might sound silly, or you might not really see how it's going to change your mindset, but coming from a place of gratitude is so incredible, and there are so many studies that suggest how gratitude and thankfulness overrides our brain and helps us start being able to look for the positive and the good and see what we need to see in each day that will help us be rooted in positivity and see our blessings instead of our obligations. And also too, one other mindset change that we can have is shifting from I have to do to I get to do. Because even though there's dishes to wash, it's such a blessing that you get to wash dishes because you had food that filled the stomachs of the people you love. And now you get to do something to serve them. It's a blessing that you have to do laundry because those clothes were worn by people who you love and it kept them safe throughout the day. It's a blessing that you're alive today and have these responsibilities because you are the only person that can fill your role. And I know you might feel overwhelmed by what you have to do, but I know you can get it done because you're the only person who is fit for the job you're given, and all of the people in your life truly love you and there is value that you can give to them. So I just want to encourage you to step back and do those 2 simple things. Practice gratitude and change the way you look at things. Instead of saying I have to, saying I get to. My second tip for you to overcome feeling overwhelmed is to identify your energy givers. Have you ever heard of this? Energy givers versus energy zappers. My husband used to work for a man who would talk about energy zappers all the time, and it's something we still talk about to this day and makes us laugh. Energy givers are something or someone who makes you feel alive inside and good and energized and ready for the day and filled with good things. And energy zappers are those things or people that instantly just zonk your energy. Have you ever walked into the room and seen somebody that made the room change for the better? They lit up the room and everyone in there seemed to get a little bit more energized. Or on the flip side, have you ever seen somebody walk into the room with such a bad mood and a scowl on their face and so grumpy and literally just felt a pit form in your stomach and felt the tone of the room get super tense? You probably know what I'm talking about. There's energy zappers and energy givers, and that's not necessarily just people. It can be things that we do and what we consume. Energy zappers in my life, and probably in yours too, are really bad news. I know that whenever I see something happening with the world that is super negative, I get really anxious and it can just zap my energy right there. I know that whenever I scroll on social media for too long, I can find myself struggling with comparison or anxiety and just feeling like I'm not doing enough for my kids, or I'm not keeping my house nice enough, or my things aren't as up to date as they should be. And that can be a huge energy zapper. Another energy zapper to me is honestly when I don't keep my house tidy and I see things getting crazy. That causes a lot of overwhelm towards me and I feel so chaotic. Those are 3 huge energy zappers for me, and I'm guessing probably are energy zappers for you too. But some energy givers for me is really good music. I love to fill my home with energy givers. And this is something that's really going to help you overcome feeling overwhelmed, is finding things that fill your soul and help you find so much joy throughout the day so you're not feeling as burnt out. Number 1 for me is putting on worship music and playing that throughout my house. My kids know I love to sing old-fashioned hymns to them them all day, and that gives me so much energy and just roots my heart in so much truth. Another thing that is an energy giver for me that I absolutely love is sunlight. I love to go on walks throughout the day and open up the blinds and have the sunlight come in. For whatever reason, that gives me so much energy and helps me stay grounded and feel filled. The third thing that gives me energy is baking. I absolutely love to bake a good treat. I'm always baking cookies or cakes or something for my kids to enjoy, and it gives me so much energy. Those are just 3 simple things that I love to do in my day that fill me with joy, and you have to find those 3 things in your day that can give you energy. Simple things that you can incorporate into your routine that aren't crazy, but things you can achieve on a daily basis to help yourself feel less burnt out so you're not being overcome by the overwhelm because you're investing in you. The third thing that you can do to help you overcome feeling overwhelmed is routines and rhythms. This is one of my favorite things to talk about because having a routine and coming up with rhythms for myself, my kids, and my house has been a game changer and one of the only ways I'm able to get things done. Coming up with rhythms and routines for how our day flows and how I'm structuring things has literally changed my life. And what I mean by that is literally putting the house on a schedule, having a day to do certain tasks and tackle certain different rooms. I heard about this theory maybe a couple years back, and when I started implementing it, I really started seeing a change in my stress levels and also in the way that I kept my house. Another thing with rhythms and routines is creating a really simple rhythm for you to go through during the day. Creating your morning routine, creating an afternoon routine, and creating an evening routine. Creating a morning routine, an afternoon routine, and an evening routine so you know how your day is going to flow and how things are structured is so helpful. I actually have a binder where I have my routine printed out on a laminate page, and I look at it every day to help me follow the structure and rhythm and know what's coming next. I have different themed days for my kids where we do certain things on certain days. They know what to expect, and it helps them feel structured, and it also helps me know what to do and how to structure things so that I'm not getting overwhelmed and I know what's coming. Tip number 4 has helped me so much, and it's how I create my to-do list. I used to just do a big laundry list of things I needed to get done, and every time I look at it, I would just feel so overwhelmed because I'd have like these 30 things to do on my list, and I'd be like, how am I ever going to get this done? And then I'd never get any of it done because I was just so overwhelmed and paralyzed by it. So what I've learned to do and what has helped me so much mentally is breaking my to-do list into 3 different categories. I break my to-do list up into work, home, and personal, and I put a certain number of things I need to do in each of those to-do list categories and go through it throughout the day, and it has been the biggest game changer. And the last thing that I really want to remind you with is no matter how overwhelmed you feel or anxious or tired you feel today, I just want to remind you to keep going. I want to remind you how loved and important you are and what an amazing mother you are and what a role you play, that you are the only one who can feel the You're the only one who can fill the shoes you're in, and I can promise you that you're not always going to feel overwhelmed, that you just need to keep going and that you're going to get through this. I want to remind you too with something that hit me when I had my epiphany is this. You're the only one in control of the load you carry. You're the only one who gets to steward and decide how you go about today and how you feel about the life you're given. You're the only one walking in your shoes, and you're the only one able to decide how you feel. Don't let the weight of what you have to do ruin your mood and destroy who you are. You are so much more than that, and you can steward things well. I truly believe that, and I truly know that this load you're carrying is one that you're able to choose to carry well. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on today's podcast episode. I am so thankful that we got to have this conversation, and I hope that you leave feeling equipped and inspired to live life to the fullest. I hope you know that you're the only one in control of you and that your joy is up to you. You may feel overwhelmed in this moment, but if you can take these tiny little steps, I know that you're going to overcome it. If you enjoyed today's podcast episode, make sure you take a screenshot of it with something that inspired you and post it to your Instagram story and tag me. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. I can't wait to hang out with you on next week's episode, and I'll talk to you then. Bye.